How are you? This video is going to be on sentences. And sentences are one of those things that are kind of easy and hard at the same time. A sentence, people hear definitions like a sentence is a series of words that expresses a complete thought, or a sentence is a subject and a verb phrase. And then the problem is that they write, and then their English teachers say, well, you wrote a sentence fragment, or you wrote a run-on sentence, and run-ons and fragments and run-ons and fragments, and it drives people crazy because they're not really sure exactly what that means. So this video and this brain sheet is going to try to define it in sort of a different way. And hopefully that will help you understand how to make sure that every sentence you write is a real sentence. So let's just first look at the definition that we put together here, which is a sentence is a series of words that puts a clear idea or picture in your mind without confusing you or saying too much at once. Let's take a look at a picture here, for example. Let me just show you this, all right? I'm going to say a sentence. I'm going to say a series of words right now. 6 people. Okay, now if I say to you 6 people, the next thing you're going to ask me is, what? Okay, what? 6 people. 6 people what? So what you have there is you have a fragment. I know I wasn't going to say fragment a lot or anything, but fragment just means part of a sentence. It's not a sentence, because if I say to you 6 people, you're going to say what? And if somebody looks at a series of words and goes, huh? Or goes, what? Then that's not a sentence. And another way of looking at it is this here. Going down the river. Well, there's something missing here. Going down the river. That's also a fragment. In other words, that's not really a sentence, because if I say to you, hey, guess what? And you go, what? And I say, going down the river. You're going to go, what? Because you don't know what I'm talking about. Who's going? What are you talking about? You'd say to me. Who's going down the river? What's going down the river? Okay, now, but if I say to you, 6 people on a blue raft are going down the river. Now that makes sense. If I say 6 people on a blue raft are going down the river, then you'll go, oh, okay. And you're no longer going to say, what? All right. So when you hear a series of words that explain something and puts a clear picture in your mind, then you know you have a sentence. And the other thing that in this definition is here, if I say without saying too much at once. Okay, now if I go back to this picture here and I say 6 people on a raft are going down the river, the weather is warm, it was in Kentucky in the middle of summer, I really like ice cream, my mother likes ice cream too, my mother has 2 dogs and my brother has 3 dogs, and I really like cars and my car is blue, and okay, you're going to go whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, and that's the other part of this definition here, which is without saying too much at once. All right, now this sentence here, if I say 6 people on a raft are going down the river, that's good enough. Stop there. Make that the end of one sentence, and if you're going to talk about your mom and her dogs and what kind of ice cream you like, then make them in separate sentences. All right, so let's go back to the brain sheet here. And there are not a lot of absolute rules in English that are never broken. I mean, most rules in English are made to be broken, but there are a few that must never be broken. And here's 2 of them. Every sentence must begin with a capital letter. Now you're going to argue with me that there are some writers that break these rules, and let's just not talk about that right now. But when it comes to writing things for English class and 99.999% of everything you read, these rules will never be broken. They're 2 musts. A sentence must begin with a capital letter. Must, okay? See this? This is not a sentence. Why? Because it doesn't have a capital letter at the beginning. You have to capitalize every sentence all the time, 100%. And then here, a sentence must end with a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point. Must. These are called, by the way, end punctuation. All right? Must end with a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point. This here is not a sentence because it does not have any end punctuation. All right, so let's move on. Here, let's describe a sentence as a spoon. Do you need a spoon? That's strange. Here's a bowl of cereal. All right. Do you need a spoon? Yes. What am I talking about? A sentence is like a spoon. And if it sounds weird, imagine this. When you cook, people eat your food. And when you write, people read your words. when you write, it's sort of like you've prepared a bowl of cereal for somebody. And the sentence is the spoon that's going to get your food into their mind. So the trick is to use a sentence, use a spoon, which is a sentence, that makes it easy to eat, meaning read. If the spoon, the sentence, is missing a part or is too complicated, it's difficult and frustrating to eat, meaning read. All right, now you're wondering, what is he talking about? So let's go into it. Bang! Here's the problem number one with a lot of sentences. Part of the spoon is missing. Try to eat with this one. It's not going to happen. Okay, if you get this spoon and you go, huh? Or you go, what? That's what we were talking about earlier with this thing here, which is, 6 people. What? Huh? All right, they're not doing their job. There's not enough parts to this spoon. These are called sentence fragments. Here's some. Yesterday too. What? Yesterday too what? What? Don't you want to know what I'm talking about? Here's another one. Melting in the sun. What? What's melting in the sun? Isn't that what you want to ask? My family, including my 2 dogs, no matter what the weather is like or how hard it's raining outside. Huh? What? Your family what? Or next week my car. Next week your car what? You get the idea? Okay, so if you read a series of words and you go, what? Or you go, huh? Okay, then what you have is not a sentence. You have something. It's called a sentence fragment. And a fragment is a part of something. It just means something is broken into pieces and you have part of it. And that's what a fragment is. And this is what you have here. And if you notice, it's not about how long the sentences are. Okay, this is a fragment, this is an incomplete sentence, and this long one here is an incomplete sentence. So you can't go by how long or how short the sentence is. You have to read it, and if it's clear to you, you've got yourself a sentence. If it's making you say what, then you don't have a sentence. Now, how to fix it? Okay. You have to add words so the sentence makes sense, but this is where your brain comes into play. Nobody can tell you exactly how to fix a sentence that's missing a part. And the reason why is because there's an infinite number of sentences that you could possibly write. So if you say 1 plus 1 equals 3, then it's obvious how to fix that. It's obvious what your mistake is. But if you write a sentence, that sentence that you write might be a sentence that nobody has ever written before in the history of the human race. And nobody can tell you how to fix something that's never been done before. So you have to read it and add words to fix it. And the good news is that, and this irritates people because they're like, well, what words do I add? I don't know what to add. Well, the thing is, you have to have more confidence in yourself. You already know how to speak English. You already know what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. You're not going to pick up a pencil and write a sentence that says, 5 yellow bananas marched yesterday upstairs carpet. You're not going to write that. You're going to, because it doesn't make any sense. You know what makes sense. So just have confidence. This is the secret, okay? That you read it. If it makes sense to you, then 99 times out of 100, it's going to be a grammatically correct sentence. So here you go. You just add words. Nobody can tell you what words to add, but here's some examples. Okay, we had this sentence here, yesterday too. So you just add, traffic was terrible yesterday too. Or you had, next week my car. So you just add, next week my car is getting a new paint job. Or you have, my family, including my 2 dogs, no matter what the weather is like or how hard it's raining outside, always visits my grandparents on Sunday evenings after dinner. See, this is how, or Hector, the chocolate bar sat there all afternoon melting in the sun. See, so just read this brain sheet and add you can add whatever you want to fix the sentences. Just add the sentences, add words to the sentences so that they each make sense. All right, now here's another problem with sentences. Too many spoons. Whoa. Okay. You have too many spoons there. The sentence is trying to feed you too much at once. Okay, you only have one mouth and you only can have one spoon at a time, and you only have one brain. Now here are some examples of sentences that are saying too much at once. Okay, These, by the way, are called run-on sentences. I like dogs. My sister likes cats. My father wants to move back to Philly so he can eat hoagies. Yesterday I got a new pair of shoes. Dogs are fun. And you'll read this one on your own. I like writing. My sister does too. She writes about cats. Whoa, 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 whoa. There's too much going on here. Too many spoons. It's hard to digest what they say because they run on and on and on. See, it's sort of like when you hear a sentence, your brain for a second or two has to chew on it and swallow it. It has to process each sentence, sort of like eating each separate spoonful of cereal. And if you just spoon too much, then that's called a run-on, and it irritates readers because they don't know. I mean, it's just too much at once. You just say stop, stop, finish your sentences. Okay? So now how do you fix this? You fix it as you divide up the run-ons into separate sentences. How to divide it? All right. I mean, again, nobody can tell you how to fix it. This is sort of like an art. This is sort of like an art. You just have to do this over and over and over again, and your teacher is really, really helpful with this. And you just have to split it up into individual sentences so that each one makes sense and is kind of like a convenient, sort of easy to digest mouthful. I like dogs. My sister likes cats. My father wants to move back to Philly so he can eat hoagies. Yesterday I got a new pair of shoes. Dogs are fun. Now this is kind of a funny example. The sentences are jumping all over the place. Now you may read this whole thing and say, "Wait a minute, what the heck do dogs have to do with hoagies and shoes?" That's a different kind of a whoa. But if I say to you, dogs are fun, it makes sense. If I say to you, my sister likes cats, or I say to you, yesterday I got a new pair of shoes, you're not going to go, what? I mean, you're not going to be all confused. It's going to be clear to you. Okay? I like writing, and my sister does too. She writes about cats. You see, each one of these individual sentences makes sense. And you see how this is, I like writing, my sister does too. She writes about cats. Sometimes you have to add sentences too. I mean, sometimes you have to divide it up, but sometimes you have to add words too. Like, I like writing, comma, and my sister does too. She writes about cats. So just read these examples, and and you'll sort of get the gist of it. And again, this isn't going to happen overnight. You have to just practice and practice, and work with your teacher so that your teacher can help you understand good ways to separate run-on sentences into individual, easy-to-read, logical sentences. All right, and the third problem is not really it's that the spoon is too small. All right, how would you like to eat a whole bowl of cereal with this? Okay, now what you need to do, this is sort of a different kind of problem, because this sort of problem is, I mean, your sentences are grammatically correct, but they sound like really childish. Like, here you go. Bunch of little baby spoons. I like dogs. My sister likes cats. She has a cat. Her name is Snowball. Snowball is white. She has gray eyes. Snowball scratched me once. I want a dog. I can't have one. My sister is allergic to dogs. I pet my neighbor's dog sometimes. His name is Goliath. He is a small dog. His name is funny. Goliath likes beef jerky. He likes to play fetch. Okay, these are all grammatically correct sentences. Nobody can find fault with this. They're all grammatically correct, but the problem is that it sounds childish because you have a bunch of little tiny spoons, and if you want to, it's like you want a bigger spoon. Now I know that this is the part that gets a little bit confusing, is because I just got finished telling you don't feed somebody too much. Now I'm telling you don't feed somebody too little. And you just want to grab me by the shirt and say, what do you want from me? Do I write long sentences, or do I write short sentences, or what do you want? And the thing is that your frustration, it is shared by a lot of people. And the way to get it is just to practice, is just to read. The key is that in order to become a better writer, you have to read. And the more you read, you'll see how good writers use sentences, and you start to get the hang of it. You start to get the hang of it. It's sort of like music. You start to get the feel for how the beats should go, how the music should sound. And writing is like music. And it's just all practice. And so here, right now, what you do to fix this sort of thing, where there's a bunch of little small sentences, is you just combine them so they sound better. Here's an example. I like dog. Now, sometimes, before I tell you, sometimes, I mean, there's a million different ways to combine them. Here's one example. I like dogs, comma, but my sister likes cats. She had a cat named Snowball who has white fur and gray eyes. You know, and you can just read this, and you just combine them, and there's lots of different ways to combine them, and just work with your teacher. Your teacher will show you the right way to combine them, because the right way to combine them depends on the sentences. You just have to do it. In order to become a better writer, you have to write. You have to write. It takes a long time. Don't get frustrated that you'll do something and you'll try your best and you'll write it and you'll think it's great and you'll get a whole bunch of marks all over your paper when you get it back. It's a slow, slow process, but it does happen. You know, let's say today you'll make 10 mistakes. Next week you'll make 9 mistakes. Next week you'll make 8 mistakes. And you slowly, slowly over time reduce the number of mistakes you make. And it takes time. Be patient with yourself. It does not happen overnight. Just be sure to be receptive to what your teacher is telling you. And for heaven's sake, read. If you want to get better at writing, you read. And when you read, it sort of like registers subconsciously in your brain. Like the more you read, all of a sudden when you write, you all of a sudden become a better writer. And nobody can say exactly why, because you're getting the feel for the music. And so that's my advice to you. It's a long, ongoing process. So here, of course, we have an assessment, and you're just going to follow the instructions. All right. And you're going to answer these questions, and you're going to circle whether it's a fragment or run on, or whether it's okay. And then over here, you're going to do that for these 10. And then this paragraph contains 3 sentence fragments and a run-on sentence. And just rewrite it in a series of correct sentences. And if you can do that, and just show it to your teacher, and if you can do that, then you know you have you're a lot better at writing sentences. So this is it. My advice is to practice writing, read this, and do your best. Give yourself a chance to get better. Be patient with yourself, and before you know it, you'll be writing better sentences. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you again in another video soon.